this is a biometric which says that the capturing of the in the context further mentioned that the campaign for capturing of the biometric data of the illegal migrants in the state of Manipur and Mizoram is to be completed by the end of September 2023. The state government of Manipur and Mizoram are requested to quickly prepare the plan and initiate the biometric capture of the illegal immigrants. So, Mr. Tombing, my first question to you is this biometric exercise possible? Can this be done when whole Manipur is in different camps? Is it feasible physically?
Yeah, this biometric issue that has been raised. In fact, the Home Secretary Ajay Kumar Bhalla has notified the four states, but then pertinently to Mizoram and the state of Manipur, it says you complete the process by September. Now, the Mizoram government, in fact, according to the certain report that is available, they say around 40,000 refugees are taking shelter within the territory of Mizoram. And this has to do with the Myanmar junta issues and all that. And with regard to Manipur, let's say around 4,000 has been earmarked. And from that 4,000, the report says that 2,500 has already been, in fact, recognized also. Now, the context is that for in an international regime also, under relevant conventions and treaties, biometric does solve lots of problems because it kind of ensures a clarity on how many people are seeking asylum, how many times they are seeking asylum, and also once that is determined, in fact, it ensures that certain human rights which they have intrinsically have can actually be initiated in that particular process of the human rights issues and then the humanitarian issues. Now, the Manipur context is very different from Mizoram again for the reason that ethnic clashes has happened. And in fact, my presumption was that if Mizoram can manage 40,000 refugee seekers, and when Manipur has, let's say, supposedly one tenth of the size of illegal immigrants from, let's say, Myanmar or other places, Manipur should have been in a better position. But then now, as we know, after 69 days of violence, have we created a demon out of maybe illegal migrants or maybe asylum seeker, and thereby demonizing and then maybe weaponizing it for creating an idea of instability within the state, and which of course is a very bad scenario. But then at the bottom line, I believe if the state is politically willed, biometrics should not be a difficult proposition.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll come to Rami because you wanted to speak. Ramananji, don't you think it's the step in the right direction? At least, there is, at least a state should know ki kaun hai Indian or kaun hai non-Indians.
Oh, okay. Basically, before I talk about this, I just wanted to give one particular point pertaining to the press release today by the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum. It is finally the reason for hesitation by the Kuki people now come out. We have been expecting this. One day this will definitely come out in the public. Now, in the 69 days of the violence, finally, the whole idea about making Kuki lands come out in the piece of the papers. Now, that is what, we have been raising this issue in many forums, number one. Number two, it is not only by the small group of the Kuki and Jaw people raising this issue. Even the Mizoram Chief Minister has already announced many times that there should be a Greater Nagaland issue, that there should be Greater Nagaland point of view. They have also the agenda of making Greater Nagaland. So that is the big point and the big issues. Even the Manipur violence are, exaggerated by those points. That is very important to understand. If you understand that core, reason for it, then it will be easier for us to solve the problem. This is what I wanted to place on record this. Next point, the biometric. Yes, definitely biometric should definitely help in terms of the making the list of immigrant in Manipur, because there is a issues of immigrant issues. Despite whatever number, we do not know the approximate number, maybe 4,000 or maybe 2,500 as per the one of the MLA has already listed out. But this issue and this kind of thing has should have been done before the balance, because there are many now at the moment. There are few reasons where you cannot reach out. Even the police departments cannot reach out. There are few area where the administration cannot reach out. So there are difficulties to reach out for biometric work in Manipur, some area of the hill. So that will be a challenge for the administration to do so, but it will definitely help to at least separate it, single out the immigrant populations in Manipur, and the afterward the course of actions to be taken by the government for the refugees. It will be helpful for the government.
Okay. Rami, first you and then Mr. Suhas.
Arthike, one of the reasons that biometrics is very important, and it was in the plan for border security, is because, as you know, in Manipur, 16 kilometers in and out you can travel without any sort of control. One of the problems that Assam Rifles has to be manning, and they man a huge border, over 1640 kilometers of Indo-Myanmar border, but one of the problems that they have in Manipur is that none of these people are checked when they come in, so they can disappear. There isn't any visa, there isn't any addresses, there isn't any names, wherein they can be contacted again. So considering that we do have this area of 16 kilometers within which people can go from one country to another, it becomes really important for this biometric to come in. Number two, it doesn't matter whether 2,000 people have been registered or 1,500 people have been registered. There shouldn't be one illegal infiltrator in this country. Also, if you're an illegal infiltrator, the chances are that you aren't registered in any list, so maybe you haven't registered yourself, maybe you're not counted in the refugee list. 40,000, we say 30 to 40,000 in Mizoram, they may be well above that. Same with Manipur. How do we know that they haven't moved on from there? So these are points that have to be kept in mind while manning these borders. I agree with the gentleman before me that these borders are tough to completely seal, because even fencing, you are only as good as your weakest link, and some of these areas are porous because of thick forestation, and the fact that a lot of miscreants, insurgent groups just know these areas really well, so yes, as difficult as it is, the use of technology is going to become more and more important to man our borders. And I think this is a great step, and we should really sort of welcome it, because they should be lined throughout. Having said that, I've also always said on the borders, it's always important also to have the support of civil society. Number two, I also agree with the gentleman before me when he spoke about ITLF. I do believe that even though they're not representatives of an entire community, and they might be only a section of the society that is making such a random demand, the fact is that we've had a call for Greater Nagaland for 60 years, the longest running insurgency in this country. Of course, the government of India right now is in negotiation, suspension of operations with the stakeholders of IMNK. But having said that, there is always a little fear that this might have a ripple effect on neighboring states, and we know Mizoram has a history. We know that, people across the border, there are vested interests that come in from across the borders, so this, this sort of a statement, which is this irresponsible to come out, not only raises our attention, not just to the situation in Manipur, but this could very well have a destabilizing impact on the entire region, which has really enjoyed relative peace, So this needs to be nipped in the bud, and absolutely, it needs to be called out for the sham that it is, because they know very well if this is the argument that they are playing, then it puts considerable doubt on their previous demand of wanting greater autonomy. It almost feels like that was just the passageway to reach this. And I think, the other communities, the other tribal communities must realize that this will derail their entire process of what their original demand was.
Mr. Suhas?
Well, I think the notification of the Ministry of Home Affairs on this biometric identification is naive, it's stupid. It just shows how the officials in the Ministry of Home Affairs have no idea how the ground realities work. And let me say this, when you try to do biometric identification at a time when 70,000 people have been displaced and they lost everything, and many people lost every property, and you basically mean to say that those who will not be able to produce any documents, whether it is Meitei or Kuki, they become illegal immigrants. Because if you do not have documents, you have no illegal immigrants. That's one aspect. The second aspect is, if you do not have a policy on refugees, you are not going to circumvent this kind of illegal immigrant checking, because nobody is going to come up and say, I'm an illegal immigrant. And look at the policy of India, all the state governments. If you are a Sri Lankan Tamils, even though LTT has been wiped out in 2009, nobody talks about repatriation of the Tamil refugees into Sri Lanka, because the refugee policy in this country depends on your ethnicity, depends on your religious affinity. So this entire documentation could be used by, say, somebody like state government like Mizoram, who are sheltering their own population, saying, okay, everybody gets the documentation to say that they are not illegal immigrants. In 1990, when Aung San Suu Kyi government was taken over, about 100,000 people have come to Mizoram from Chinland. And look at the reports of the Human Rights Watch. Nobody had gone back. So where have they gone back? They have been assimilated. But on the other hand, if they belong to the other communities, non-Mizo communities, they will be very allergic to it. So where do we have the problem? We do not even realize the fact that government of India, what are they doing? The government of India is one of the 5 countries in the world arming the junta. And what is the junta doing? Junta is repressing its own population, whether you are a Chin or, a Kuki, etc. And once you repress these people, then they come to India. So what is the government of India has been doing? Government of India has been basically funding the Myanmarese junta so that it could import the problems of the Myanmarese junta, and you have the problems in Mizoram and Manipur. So if you look at the whole idea of documentation, this illegal immigrant identifier, how are you going to only identify illegal immigrants based on their origin from Myanmar or elsewhere else? If you are going to address elsewhere, you have to bring the National Register of Citizens. And National Register of Citizens, without the other court or a parliamentary act, you can bring it, because the only state where the NRC has been allowed was basically with respect to Assam. And what do you have in Assam? 1.9 million people who have been excluded from the NRC, and possibly about 500,000 people belong to the Adivasis, the indigenous peoples, the Bodos, and all other communities. So the only way you could address these issues is basically you should have a policy wherein people could come and claim refugee status or asylum. If you do not allow that kind of a process, and if your policy is only arrest under the Foreigners Act and arrest and detention and repatriation, you are not going to work out. And I can tell you, at the end of this process, people who have come in Mizoram, they are not going to be identified as illegal immigrant. And we will file RTA application, we will show it. It just shows that people who are at the Ministry of Home Affairs, this is the wrong time to initiate a process where you identify people, who is an illegal immigrant, who is not an illegal immigrant, because this is going to foment more conflicts.
Okay, Rami, Rami, you want to respond? Then I'll come to Mr. Ramanand Singh and Mr. Tombing.
So with all due respect, let me say this: biometrics is not there to identify illegal infiltration. It is for border control.
Please look at the direction of the Ministry of Home Affairs. It is not for identification of the citizens. It is for identification of the illegal immigrants. And who is going to come?
Identification of illegal immigrants means what? How does biometrics work? It works with your fingerprints. It works with your physical.
No, that's what I'm saying. No.
When
How are you
sir,
going to
there's no point
identify?
speaking
Because
over me.
Mr.
Let me explain what
see,
I'm
there
saying.
is nobody
Mr.
in the
Suhas, Mr.
camp.
Suhas, Mr. Suhas, let
Sir,
Rami
there's
speak.
no point
No,
speaking
let
over
Rami
me.
speak, then you
There
can
are
speak.
not
I have no issue. I have no issue. Let Rami speak and then you speak.
Sir, biometrics means that they're going to scan your retina, they're going to take your fingerprints, they're going to collect information. Now, where biometrics comes to some aid is at border control, wherein you can track people coming into your country because we have 16 kilometers of freeway, free access in both the countries. Apart from that, we have an infiltration issue. Therefore, biometrics is not replacing NRC. Biometrics is not serving the same purpose as NRC. NRC is a register of citizens wherein you will have to prove your documentation. Biometrics does not require the same documentation. It is just taking your physical characteristics. Number two, sir, with again all due respect, sir, this sort of accusation without understanding the importance of foreign policy and the neighborhood first policy is, I think, really not useful. I don't think the government of India is funding any other government, including the military junta in Myanmar. I think the fact of the matter is you need to understand that they hold 25% of the seats. There is no party or there is no alliance that can stop from the military junta in Myanmar from taking over ever if they want to, and that's exactly what happened. Even when the Democratic Party was in power, they could not change the access to power that the junta had because of the amount of reservations of seats that they have. Therefore, sir, let me tell you, accusing your own country serves no benefit without understanding
No.
foreign
You are making
policy
wrong accusations.
imperative.
You are
This
making wrong
also,
accusations.
this
I mean,
also will have an impact. Us keeping a neutral stance will also have an impact on our future infrastructural processes that are going on in reference to Kaladan multimodal project. This is very important for us, again, in reference to China. So we have to see these things as a whole. We cannot make these random statements saying things like, oh,
No.
we've put the junta up. I don't think that's acceptable on national television.
No, let me come back on this. First of all, please read the instruction of the Ministry of Home Affairs. They have asked the illegal immigrants in both the states to be identified for biometric, documentation. So before you go into the biometric documentation, first of all, you have to identify who is an illegal immigrant. So that would require some identity. How do you identify in a situation where people have been displaced, their houses have been burned, they have been lost? And that's the first question. The second question with respect to Kaladan Port. I come from the Northeast India. I am a Chakma. I follow the Chittagong Hill Treks. I follow Myanmar. I follow Arakan. And let me tell you, one of the reasons why the Alakan, this Kaladan project has not been able to take over, could not be taken over, it's because of the Chin National Front. And the Chin National Front has been kidnapping the Indians,
Yes,
workers,
we all
the
know
security
about that.
forces, etc. My point was, at this point of time, if the government of India funds and arms the military junta, what is military junta doing? Military junta is repressing its own citizens. And where are they going? These citizens are coming to Mizoram, 45,000 as per the official record, 4,000 as per the unofficial records in Manipur. So what am I saying as a citizen? I am saying as a citizen that by arming the military junta in Myanmar, who is repressing its own citizens, we are basically bringing those citizens back to our country. And one of the contentions of the riots in Manipur is the issue of illegal immigrants. So is it not the fact that we are in a way arming the military junta so that we could, import their products inside the